chopped salads over there. South Asian, Southwestern sauce, and then an Asian chopped salad. So you can have a little bit of that. I just had a little bit. I don't know if y'all gonna like it or not. So, and there's just regular snacks and.
Orange and green.
Oh, we got it done. Thank you.
You think we can tackle this discussion?
Okay, let's get rolling. Okay, so let's do a little review. Make sure we're all on the same page, and then we will go. I really want to start applying these models that we're learning to scriptures as soon as possible, so that we can get familiar with them, and then we can kind of transform how we look at Jesus' life and going, returning to this theme of the religion of Jesus. So there was a sound, there was the word, there was the sound, there was the vibration. The word, the sound, the vibration forms creation. Right? We clear on that? We good on that? Okay. There's a lifelong struggle is to be created by the vibration or reshaped by other vibrations. So we see this constant struggle in the scriptures of, will I align myself with the vibration and be created and recreated, or will I allow myself to be reshaped by all these other vibrations that are around me? So there's the word, there's the sound, there's vibration, and it creates, and now we enter this constant struggle between creation or reshaping, creation or reformation. Which one will we allow ourselves to succumb to? And in this system, we talked about what is sin and where do the other vibrations come from, or how do they exist. We talked about sin is leaving the creating vibration of the Creator to be reformed by other vibrations. So whenever we make a decision to shift from the vibration to pour our energy or our attention or our focus or to these other vibrations, we allow ourselves to be shaped by them. So sin is whenever we shift from the vibration to other vibrations. Other vibrations emerge when the vibration of the Creator is turned to self. So everything was good in the beginning, so how did we get all of this quote unquote bad? If everything is good, and what we talked about last week was, the analogy of Lucifer is a perfect example. Lucifer literally means the bearer of light. But how did Lucifer become the devil? Lucifer became the devil when Lucifer said, I don't want to worship God, I want to be worshipped. So whenever we turn the vibration towards ourselves or to use it for self-interest, this is the creation of other vibrations. Now, a lot of mystics, Christian mystics will say that in the end, everything must return to the vibration. Everything must be reconciled. Now, we don't know how that's going to happen, but because there's nothing but God and there is only God, at the end, everything must come back to God. Everything must come back to vibration some way, somehow, because it all came from. But the vibration breaks up into little vibrations, which or harmful, negative, so forth and so on, we turn that and it's for self. So we turn it to serve self rather than the creator. So when we serve the created rather than the creator. So intention turns the vibration into seemingly other vibrations. Into seemingly other vibrations. So, are we good on this? This is all review. Okay. Now, I don't know if I have enough. I'm going to pass these out. I want you to have these, to use these as we, huh? Okay, can you somebody pass my oath? So I want you to have those as we go through the scriptures as a reference. And this will help, and this is what we, Oh, you printing them out? Oh, wow, look at you. Do we have enough?
I just want to see if there's enough. Oh, there is enough for everybody?
No, I'm actually.
That's what I'm figuring out.
Okay.
Yes, there's enough.
Good, okay. So this is what we talked about last week, these reviews. We have the Genesis model. So we have, in the beginning was the void, was this void, was this silence, zero. And out of the void comes creation. Out of the void comes the vibration creates activity. So we have God created in 6 days. So, you know, in 6 days God created. And then we have this notion of 7, which is the Sabbath. And Sabbath is not just, it's more than just a day in the week. And it's really, Sabbath is when I recognize that there is only but so much that I can do. There's only but so much I can know. There's only but so much that can happen. And I must go to a point of stillness, go to a point of silence, because it returns me back to the void. And when I rest back into this void, which birthed everything, which I don't understand, it allows me to re-engage the world in a creative, life-giving way. So this is the Genesis model, and this is a pattern, a rhythm that we see all throughout the scriptures. That's why this is more than just Sabbath is more than just a day. It's a way of living. I understand that my existence comes from something that's beyond me, above me, that I'll never be able to understand the void. I'm in life, I'm working, I'm doing, as much as I can, but I realize that, there is a limit. At some point, there is a limit to what I can do. There's a limit to what I can know. And at some point, I have to rest. At some point, I have to be still. At some point, I have to surrender. I have to trust. And when I do that, I'm entering into the Sabbath. And why the Sabbath is so important? Because the Sabbath, by resting, by being still, by trusting, by surrendering to the fact that I can't do it all, I can't do it by myself, I can't know it all, by resting in that, by resting, it returns me back to the void. And the void is what propels me out to be able to do life-giving, life-sustaining work again. The mistake that we don't get, that we have missed is that we get stuck on 6. So we say 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and 6 is when I can never surrender, I can never trust in anything beyond what I can do. So I keep on doing, and I might be doing a lot of good stuff. I might be doing things, accomplishing things, but I'm not doing things in the sense of I can never, if I never rest in Sabbath, if I never practice Sabbath, I can never get back to this, and my activity lacks that goodness. And in the goodness in the sense of being life-giving and being whole and being complete. Because, the scripture says, and God created and it was told it was good. So this, in Christian theology, there is nothing, at some point, if I don't practice this, I can never get back to doing life-sustaining, life-creating, life-birthing, life-giving work. Activity. I mean, it's a better way to put it, because I have to get back to the beginning. have to be at the beginning, which births creation. So this is not just a day. This is a way of thinking. This is a way of operating in the world. This is a whole lifestyle. So we have really missed how significant this pattern is of void, creation, Sabbath, to return me back to the void, so that I can engage the world in a way that is transformative. And we're going to see that Jesus was very, very intentional about living out the Genesis model. I mean, this is Jesus' life in a nutshell. Everything, even up until the last, the gospel writer's last record of Christ on the cross, is living out this rhythm of void, creation, Sabbath, void, and it happens in microcosm and macrocosm. It happens throughout the course of the day. So there should be Sabbath in our 24-hour rhythm. There should be Sabbath in our weekly rhythm. There should be Sabbath in our monthly and yearly rhythm. There should be Sabbath even in our moments, in our conversations. And we're going to talk about, we looked at that a little bit last week. We're going to talk about that more again. But Sabbath is a way of being in the world. It's a way of engaging the world. And this right here, this model right here, is really the one of the primary things. If you could get this, you can really understand the fundamental element which makes the religion of Jesus, because this is so much a part of it. So I really want you to understand this rhythm and see how important this rhythm is in scriptures, and it repeats itself over and over again throughout scriptures. It's really amazing once you're aware of it. So let me start right there. Are there any questions on that? Does that rhythm make sense? Does that make sense? Sister Carter just looking at me.
It makes sense when you're doing it, but I could not explain it to you, but I can follow you though.
Okay, are you follow? Okay. You still with? Yeah. Sister Jordan.
Okay, so I'm not 100%, because I guess the part that I'm not understanding as well is the void itself, because we go through the creation, we rest. I realize that it's time to rest. I've done all I can do, and so forth. And then we go through a period of void. It's like starting all over again.
No, we don't void, or we rest in the void, which is the silence that birthed everything. The Sabbath allows us, the stillness and silence allows us to rest, to trust in the great I am, to trust in that which is above and beyond what I can ever imagine or trust. So some people you can call the void God, you can call it Yahweh, you can call it, but even that would be to do it injustice, because that's still labeling it. And we're still in the human realm of just resting in that, the fact that I am what I am. Does that make it a little clearer?
It does. When
Okay.
you say it, at that point, we rest in the I am.
Exactly.
So the void takes place within the Sabbath. It's
Yeah.
not a separate
Well,
step,
the
for lack
Sabbath,
of a better term.
the Sabbath, the difference is the Sabbath is something that we practice, we do, and as a result of that, we, by God's grace, we are in the void.
Gotcha.
We get placed in the void. Yeah. So it's like the famous you can't climb Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder has to be given to you so you can rise in it. You can't do it yourself. Good. Good. Let's go. So we looked at the other model. What you have is this is when a pattern becomes negative. So we have, and we're going to look at this in scripture. We have reformative vibrations. We have reformation. So we begin to align with those other vibrations, and we begin to be reformed, and then we begin to produce the noise from the negative vibrations that are forming us, that are reforming and reshaping us. So we align ourselves with other vibrations. They reshape us, they reform us, and then we begin to give off that noise those vibrations which begin to reform the world. And this is how we get into these negative environments, these very destructive cycles, because we start producing the same noise that is reshaping us. And the only way that this can be broken is with silence. In not only in the literal sense, but also the figurative sense. The only way that we can return back to the vibration, return back to the voice is with silence. So we can understand that we can hear where the vibration is and how that is distinguished from all the other vibrations that are reshaping us. So we oftentimes get into this notion of, okay, you got an attitude, so now you reshaped me. Now I got an attitude because you have an attitude, and now I'm negative and I'm making other people have attitudes. And this whole pattern, and the only way that this pattern, and it can happen on micro and macro levels with nations and stuff like that, but the only way this can be broken is with silence, with stillness. Only way this can be broken with Sabbath, because Sabbath returns me back to what is real, what really returns me back to the vibration of the Creator, returns back to the void, which allows me to, when I act, when I speak, now I'm speaking out of that void, I'm speaking out of that life-giving place. And my words, my actions, I'm not responding to your vibration, I'm not responding to anyone else, I'm responding to the vibration. And we're going to talk about specific ways in order to recenter, refocus.
Question. When you start instilling those moments, the silence and the Sabbath, does it ever occur that the vibrations, the reformative vibrations get louder?
Say that again?
When you start instilling and practicing and meditating and stuff like that, these vibrations that you're trying to overcome and realign with the vibrations, is it possible that those actually become louder?
They could. It could in some sense, in some instances. I mean, what you're saying, it sounds like a could spiritual warfare type in that category. Like when you begin to realign with the vibration, these other negative vibrations get louder.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Well, it
thinking.
becomes more apparent, right?
It could
Even
be.
with the water prayer, I emailed you and I said, ever since I started, I feel like I've gotten worse.
That's how I feel too, to be honest.
So, and you said, well, maybe just your awareness is
Right,
It's
you'll be more aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be it. That could be it.
Okay.
I mean, it could be, but I mean, what we're going to look at is really regardless of how loud they get, it should be irrelevant when we get in sync. And we're going to see a biblical example of that. We'll see a biblical example.
Because it's hard giving up those vibrations. What I'm saying, if they've been your vibrations for, 40 years of their life.
Right.
And they're your best friends, because
Right.
they're very convenient. It's very hard to give up those vibrations.
Yeah, I can see
So
that.
I feel like people, if they really take it seriously, and it's something they want to realign their life with, they have to be aware that, for me, that's how I have felt it, that, oh my goodness, you don't realize how much you rely on those vibrations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Isn't that part and parcel though of the growth?
Yeah.
And when we were doing spiritual warfare, talked about how the more spiritual you became, the more things were going to come at you.
Yeah, and that's why I said spiritual.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is a similar kind of thing. You're more aware of those vibrations.
So much so.
But you see, you have to become aware of them in order to defeat them. If you don't know that they're there, you're never going to be able to do anything about them. So, in one aspect of it, it's good. It's a good thing because now that you know, you can take action to stop it because you know that you have got to get back to Sabbath in order to break that.
Yeah. And I mean, and we're going to talk about the whole process because I know you weren't in the spiritual warfare thing, but we talked about this notion of that there's no spiritual warfare if you're not spiritual. You know this thing. You can't be spiritually attacked if you're not spiritual, because spiritual warfare only happens at the level of the spirit. So as you become more aware of spiritual things, of course, that is a part of it. That is part of it, because what most people call spiritual warfare are really just battles on the soul level, which is the emotion and intellect. That's not the spirit. So, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that. So But this is clear. This Pat. Okay, good. So we talked about the Moses model. The I am speaks. Moses is created. Moses tries to understand the I am. Well, tell me what your name is. How and then Moses just rests and surrenders. And then Moses rests and surrenders in the I am, and he can rest him back in that, and he recreated again. So we talked about this that pattern. That's a model that we will see emerging throughout the scriptures. And then we talked about, and we're not going to really, we're not going to talk about this as much, but this is a model we talked about last week is, the same thing of, the second creation was you should not make for yourself a graven image. Why? Because the silence can't be captured, the void can't be captured. There's no way that we can really capture God. So we have the command of no image, and then we have creating. We have the creating commandments of thou shalt not. But really, it's really about vibration, shaping us, forming us, recreating us. And then we have remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Hollow out the Sabbath. Why? Because empty out. Make sure that you have time when you are resting, you have time when you are stealing. Why? Because that's going to allow you to stay connected to the great I am. That's what's going to allow you to stay connected to that which is above all. You have to, once you've done all you can, once you've done all the commandments that you can, there has to be a point in which you rest, trust, surrender, because if not, you'll continue to do things, but your activity will become less and less productive, less and less really, that's not the right word, your activity will become less and less life creating and life sustaining. You might be very productive, but it won't be life giving. Because if there's no Sabbath, you can never create, you can never connect back to the void, the great I am. You can never connect back to Yahweh, which all life-giving stuff comes from. So you might be very productive in your activity, but because you never practice Sabbath, because you never practice any stillness in your life, you're never doing things that are really life-giving to yourself and life-giving to others. They might be very productive. And this is very, so we see the Sabbath in all these models. We see there has to be a resting, a stillness to reconnect us back to our Creator. Life-giving, I'll give you a purpose. Life-giving is anything, let's go back to Galatians 5, anything that produces fruit of the Spirit. Anything that produces fruit of the Spirit. So anything which leads to more godly love, more godly peace, more patience, more kindness, more gentleness. I believe it's Galatians 5:28. So whatever produces fruit of the Spirit. That is a very good indication that is life-giving. If you're doing something and it's not, it gives you no joy, no peace, no love, no patience, no gentleness, that should be a red flag. That should be a red flag. Good question. Still with me? Okay. Let's listen to another TED Talk by Julian Treasure. He is basically the definitive person in reference to, he basically made a whole career on how to listen, the power of silence. So this is actually available. You can get this, online. So this will be a link that you can get easily.
We are losing our listening. We spend roughly 60% of our communication time listening, but we're not very good at it. We retain just 25% of what we hear. Now, not you, not this talk, but that is generally true. Let's define listening as making meaning from sound. It's a mental process, and it's a process of extraction. We use some pretty cool techniques to do this. One of them is pattern recognition. So in a cocktail party like this, if I say, David, Sarah, pay attention, some of you just sat up. We recognize patterns to distinguish noise from signal, and especially our name. Differencing is another technique we use. If I left this pink noise on for more than a couple of minutes, you would literally cease to hear it. We listen to differences, we discount sounds that remain the same. And then there is a whole range of filters. These filters take us from all sound down to what we pay attention to. Most people are entirely unconscious of these filters, but they actually create our reality in a way because they tell us what we're paying attention to right now. I'll give you one example of that. Intention is very important in sound, in listening. When I married my wife, I promised her that I would listen to her every day as if for the first time. Now that's something I fall short of on a daily basis, but it's a great intention to have in a relationship. But that's not all. Sound places us in space and in time. If you close your eyes right now in this room, you're aware of the size of the room from the reverberation and the bouncing of the sound off the surfaces. And you're aware of how many people are around you because of the micro noises you're receiving. And sound places us in time as well, because sound always has time embedded in it. In fact, I would suggest that our listening is the main way that we experience the flow of time from past to future. So, sonority is time and meaning, a great quote. I said at the beginning we're losing our listening. Why did I say that? Well, there are a lot of reasons for this. First of all, we invented ways of recording. First writing, then audio recording, and now video recording as well. The premium on accurate and careful listening has simply disappeared. Secondly, the world is now so noisy, with this cacophony going on visually and auditorily. It's just hard to listen, it's tiring to listen. Many people take refuge in headphones, but they turn big public spaces like this, shared soundscapes, into millions of tiny little personal sound bubbles. In this scenario, nobody's listening to anybody. We're becoming impatient. We don't want oratory anymore, we want sound bites. And the art of conversation is being replaced, dangerously I think, by personal broadcasting. I don't know how much listening there is in this conversation, which is sadly very common, especially in the UK. We're becoming desensitized. Our media have to scream at us with these kind of headlines in order to get our attention. And that means it's harder for us to pay attention to the quiet, the subtle, the understated. This is a serious problem that we're losing our listening. This is not trivial. Because listening is our access to understanding. Conscious listening always creates understanding. And only without conscious listening can these things happen. A world where we don't listen to each other at all is a very scary place indeed. So I'd like to share with you 5 simple exercises, tools you can take away with you to improve your own conscious listening. Would you like that? Good. The first one is silence. Just 3 minutes a day of silence is a wonderful exercise to reset your ears and to recalibrate so that you can hear the quiet again. If you can't get absolute silence, go for quiet. That's absolutely fine. Second, I call this the mixer. So even if you're in a noisy environment like this, and we all spend a lot of time in places like this, listen in the coffee bar to how many channels of sound can I hear? How many individual channels in that mix am I listening to? You can do it in a beautiful place as well, like a lake. How many birds am I hearing? Where are they? Where are those ripples? It's a great exercise for improving the quality of your listening. Third, this exercise I call savouring, and this is a beautiful exercise. It's about enjoying mundane sounds. This, for example, is my tumble dryer. It's a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I love it. Or just try this one on for size. Wow! So mundane sounds can be really interesting if you pay attention. I call that the hidden choir. It's around us all the time. The next exercise is probably the most important of all of these. If you just take one thing away, this is listening positions. The idea that you can move your listening position to what's appropriate to what you're listening to. This is playing with those filters. Remember I gave you those filters at the beginning? It's starting to play with them as levers, to get conscious about them and to move to different places. These are just some of the listening positions or scales of listening positions that you can use. There are many. Have fun with that. It's very exciting. And finally, an acronym. You can use this in listening, in communication. If you're in any one of those roles, and I think that probably is everybody who's listening to this talk. The acronym is RASA, which is the Sanskrit word for juice or essence. And RASA stands for receive, which means pay attention to the person, appreciate, making little noises like, oh, okay. Summarize, the word so is very important in communication. And ask questions afterwards. Now, sound is my passion, it's my life. I wrote a whole book about it, so I live to listen. That's too much to ask for most people. But I believe that every human being needs to listen consciously in order to live fully. Connected in space and in time to the physical world around us, connected in understanding to each other, not to mention spiritually connected, because every spiritual path I know of has listening and contemplation at its heart. That's why we need to teach listening in our schools as a skill. Why is it not taught? It's crazy. And if we can teach listening in our schools, we can take our listening off that slippery slope to that dangerous, scary world that I talked about and move it to a place where everybody is consciously listening all the time, or at least capable of doing that. Now, I don't know how to do that, but this is TED. And I think the TED community is capable of anything. So I invite you to connect with me, connect with each other, take this mission out, and let's get listening taught in schools and transform the world in one generation to a conscious listening world, a world of connection, a world of understanding, and a world of peace. Thank you for listening to me today.
All right. Now, I think what that last quote, he said, listening consciously allows me to live fully. And I think that really, and he even hit on, it's not even a spiritual talk, and he hit on the importance of listening in reference to the spiritual path. And he's right, there's no, I know he's not, versed in religion, but there is no spiritual path. There is no spiritual path in which the heart of it is not based on listening. Now, in a religious context, we can make a lot of parallels how we have lost our ability to attune, to calibrate, to be sensitive to the vibration, and we are just doing. We're just doing. And that is a very, very scary place to be at. A very scary place to be at. So, tell me one line or one quote that really caught your attention from that clip.
In the beginning, about what's the result of not listening.
What's the result of not listening? Right.
Yes, it's just so paramount.
Uh-huh.
I'm blown away because I knew that was the case. I knew nobody's listening anymore.
Good. What else?
Listening in our schools.
Teach listening in our schools. Very good. I'm going to Arrowhead on I'm doing a meditation seminar for Arrowhead on Thursday. So teach listening in our schools. Yes. What else?
Listening consciously allows us to live fully.
Listening consciously allows us to live fully. Yes, that's the quote. That's the quote that resonates with me as well. What else?
We choose what we want to listen to.
We choose what we want to listen to. Right. How tuning out certain things and putting ourselves in a bubble. Yeah.
When students in school won't listen, but they'll listen to anything, learn anything on the radio, on the radio, but whatever they use now. They can learn, they can use the rap and all the stuff they can, at one listen, they can do that.
Yeah. So tuning in and tuning out. Yeah, different things. Yeah.
And we're just learning, listening to little bits. Of
Sound bites, yeah.
Yeah, that makes, yeah.
Yep. Soundbite world.
Yeah.
The difference between, listening to a soundbite versus being in a concert or, that whole, yeah. Okay. What else? Anything else? that grabbed you?
How they grab your attention, how the words that they have to use to grab people's attention.
Right, and speaking louder and louder
Yeah.
as a result to grab your attention, yeah. So using sound, so just to continue, using sound as an analogy for the religion of Jesus, what role does sound play in the religion of Jesus? And we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail today. The scriptures, we're going to use the patterns that we've already identified, and hopefully we may be able to get to a new pattern, but if not, that's okay. But I want you to be able to, from the patterns that we've learned thus far, the models that we looked at that you have in front of you, as we look at this scripture, I want you to identify where you see the pattern, or at least parts of the pattern in the scripture. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. What models do you see at work in this passage?
When you say models, you mean patterns, is that the same?
Right, your models
Patterns,
and patterns, same
patterns.
thing. Yeah, exactly. So you have it in front of you. So I want you to turn to Genesis 16.
Exodus.
Exodus. I'm looking at Exodus. I'm saying Genesis. Genesis 16.
Exodus.
Exodus 16. I got Genesis on my mind.
Is that a way to see if we're missing?
Yeah, right. Exodus 16. Let's start with verse 6. And I want you to do this at your table. So I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. I want you to go through 16. Go to 26. 6 to 26. See how far you can get. And I'll leave the question up. What models do you see at work here? There's really two sections of this passage, but I just gave you the whole thing. So what models do you see at work here? Nueve minutos. Cinco. I don't hear a lot of discussion going on.
Some of them, most of stuff, not to get intellectual, right, but some of them kept the leftovers. And they're still-
Until 6 days, they're supposed to get their
Extra. So I don't, so.
I mean, even every
So I was supposed to
Oh, I think their behaviors, they were looking to other voices.
Right, so